We're thrilled to be here. And I'm a white female sitting with a white male in our kitchen in Seattle.
Wearing a beautiful necklace, I would add.
And we're going to get started.
So we are now in the midst of the greatest energy transition civilization has ever undertaken. And for many reasons that you all will be aware of, it's not happening as quickly as we need it to be happening. We like to say before change can occur, it must be imagined. And also before technology like renewable energy technology can be deployed at scale, it must be widely desired by the public. And we are tasked now as creatives with painting a beautiful picture of our post-carbon world that shows that climate crisis is not all just about gloom and doom, but it can also be the solution to it can be something that improves all of our lives in a just and equitable way. It's helpful to go back to the beginning of electrification. As you can see here, this is a power plant in Lisbon from the turn of the last century, when all of our power plants were located right in the hearts of our cities because they had to be. We couldn't raise the voltage of electricity high enough to transmit it efficiently across long distances. So everybody lived down the street from a coal-fired power plant, which is not ideal. But in that sense, people understood where their electricity came from. They had a cultural connection to these infrastructures, and these infrastructures were designed to be beautiful contributions to public space. As soon as we were able to move those infrastructures out of the city, we did for public health reasons, obviously, although many people still do live next to these kinds of infrastructures. They lost their relationship to art and culture, and no one today really knows where their electricity comes from behind the switch on the wall. And that separation between energy infrastructure and human culture has continued into the renewable energy transition. And of course, it's understandable that we have utilitarian aesthetics from these infrastructures like this because they're doing their best to compete per kilowatt hour against the incumbent energy sources. But that fight has largely been won, and solar and wind are now the cheapest forms of electricity on the planet. And it's time to deploy them at scale. But if every community solar installation has the aesthetics of this, just panels on the ground, surrounded by a chain link fence, maybe with barbed wire on it, that is adding to the clean energy on the grid, but it's also doing a larger disservice to the overall movement. And as Bill Reed was saying, we can't design in a vacuum. We have to think about the larger technical systems within which we're designing. And so we came up with an idea 14 years ago to bring creatives to the head of the table for designing these infrastructures to see what could happen.
So we were living in the United Arab Emirates in 2008 and thinking through all the pinch points to the energy transition, and thought, what if this infrastructure could be reimagined as large-scale works of art and public amenities and places where we could go for a picnic on the weekend. Since that time, we've been holding international design competitions as a tool to bring the world together around this idea. So inviting interdisciplinary teams led by artists and architects and landscape architects and engineers and scientists and really anyone who wants to come to the table. Working in both private and public partnerships with cities around the world. What we've been trying to do with the international open call competitions is shift site typology so that we have a growing portfolio that represents different approaches. So we've got a landfill. Logi 2012 was for Fresh Kills Park, former landfill that's now in the process of reclamation, almost finished with reclamation. Brownfield site, coastal sites, master plan sites, gateways to cities. Logi 2020 Fly Ranch was interesting because it is around 4,000 acres owned by Burning Man Project, completely off-grid, near where Burning Man event takes place. And they are looking for year-round programming at this site. So they need all systems. So in addition to inviting creatives to reimagine energy technologies as media for artwork, we were asking teams to think about water, agriculture, shelter, waste management, along with energy. We've just now launched LOGI 2022 Mannheim, which is a partnership with the German Federal Horticultural Show. And another interesting site typology, because that event is taking place at a former military barrack.
That'll be a $30,000 prize, and it's open till September 4.
Throughout the process of putting together these competitions, there's a lot of community engagement from the upfront through to the end of delivering exhibitions and workshops and a wide range of public programming.
We're going to go through really quickly by technology type, just a few examples that have come into the open call competition, and then we'll show some examples of participatory design with communities. As you can see here, we've got polycrystalline on the left and monocrystalline solar panels like you would put on your rooftop, but you give those to an artist working with an engineer and you get energy duck. So everybody loves a duck. Why not have this duck power an entire neighborhood? This would power about 40 homes, energy intensive homes. It's also a battery that lowers itself and raises itself during times of day, actually sinks probably in the evening when solar energy is waning, and it adds additional energy to the grid, and then rises in the morning with the first light. This is an example of bifacial solar panels. So they create electricity from light hitting them from both sides. So the reflected light within these beautiful living spaces. It's a clutch of falcon eggs scaled up at a massive scale size to celebrate the importance of the falcon to the UAE culture. This is from Masdar City.
As you're looking at these slides, quick tip is under annual capacity, this says 6,633 megawatt hours. If you drop the last number, you're going to get an idea of how many homes might be powered by these artworks. So around 600 homes.
And if you're in Europe, you can almost double that. This is an example of a solar powered desalination facility that's also a public amenity with a pool in the middle that is kind of like the Dead Sea because it's actually the waste brine. Waste brine can be very damaging to the local marine environment. So this storage tank actually allows it to be slowly mixed with the existing seawater to mitigate that impact somewhat, while also providing this public amenity. And it's producing 4.5 billion liters of drinking water per year using these beautiful solar panels that clad this artwork. You don't need to limit your creativity to the blue solar panels. They can be laminated with any kind of material that creates a solid color or even a printed image, as we'll show you a little later. And then on the right, you see a golden tinted solar module. You can get solar modules in any color you like. That golden tinted module comes together to form a new photovoltaic sun for the city of Abu Dhabi here, surrounded by the planets on their relative position to each other on the day the UAE was founded. So it celebrates the birth of a nation, powers 100 homes, and all of these artworks are clad with photovoltaic material. Another example of laminated solar technology is LightUp, the winner of LOGI 2018 Melbourne for St. Kilda Triangle, which is now basically a parking lot. They're proposing this beautiful river of energy, this yellow stream flowing over Jacka Boulevard and safely connecting St. Kilda Triangle to the foreshore, creating enough electricity to power hundreds of homes in the process. Organic photovoltaic and dye-sensitized solar cells are other kinds of solar PV technology that are flexible. They're all the colors of the rainbow, and they can be semi-translucent to create beautiful effects when incorporated into artwork. All of the pink ribbons you see here are the performative organic photovoltaic technology. And this is a power plant, as Elizabeth said, where you can take your family for a picnic. It's a beautiful contribution to public space while it powers hundreds of homes in the city. WindNest is really exciting for us because it's actually, as we speak, under fabrication and will be unveiled this summer. As a part of the larger Unboxed UK event, it will be incorporated into an artwork called Sea Monster in Weston-super-Mare. So look out for that this summer. And it is a wind energy sculpture. Each of one of these beautiful clouds holds a turbine and it rotates to face the wind. So it's a kinetic artwork. And on the top, it has organic photovoltaic. So it also generates electricity from sunlight. Renewable Oasis uses dye-sensitized solar cells encapsulated in ETFE sheets to create these beautiful lollipop trees. Another kind of technology moving away from photovoltaic entirely is solar thermal technology. And you can generate electricity from the heat power of the sun. This is an example of a prototype at Masdar City. Same exact technology is incorporated in the winner of the 2014 Copenhagen Logi competition. It's an hourglass to remind us all that there's still time to avert the worst effects of climate change if we can all act together. So it's a positive and inspiring message about our clean energy future that also powers 1,000 homes and is incredibly engaging so that we can reconnect people to the energy that they consume. Here's an example.
So you're at 5 minutes, guys.
Thank you. This is an example from Logi 2020 Fly Ranch, the winning project called Lodgers, which is really focused on creating habitat for local species, as well as creating educational spaces and composting toilets for Fly Ranch. Aquaplantera is a community art installation that uses coiling pottery techniques with the public to create these vessels, inside of which are pre-manufactured porcelain vessels that clean water to drinking level quality and creates these beautiful habitats for pollinators on the site. And then, as we said, we would talk a little bit about, in closing, some of our smaller scale artworks that we do in collaboration with communities. This is an art and energy camp that over 6 weeks, participants learned about art outside the gallery, environmental art, assemblage, and renewable energy technologies and science of energy. They visited power plants of all kinds to understand the mix of energy in Western Pennsylvania, and then they designed their own regenerative sculpture for their neighborhood using solar modules. I mentioned earlier that solar panels can be laminated with any printed film, and so that gave birth to our Solar Mural Artworks program. We've done a lot of these in San Antonio in partnership with Penelope Boyer, an amazing artist and art producer there. And these tell the stories of community. They're designed with community. You can see on the left, the 5th grade science class at JT Brackenridge is very proud of the artwork that they designed. It is a photograph of the class of 1906 juxtaposed with the photograph of their class to show the continuity over time. And this artwork will stay on the wall, generating electricity for the school for more than 30 years. So they'll be able to show their kids and their grandkids, perhaps. And anything you can imagine with paint on a wall, you can now do with solar panels. So that's really cool. And we're also working with, as was mentioned earlier, a community of Maasai women in Alorga-Sele, Kenya. Atasa Solar means make solar in Kimasai language. And so these women are designing their own solar infrastructure that meets their life and is what they need, rather than helicoptering in an NGO solution that may or may not be maintainable. This is a pure knowledge transfer because these women are making the solar modules themselves, and they'll be able to repair them when they break. And they're mostly wearables, so that's interesting. And we do a lot of engagement around every one of our projects with educational materials. We put out a book, we put out a field guide to renewable energy technologies, and all of these are free to download as PDFs from our website, landartgenerator.org. And of course, we put out a book with every one of our major competitions. Our most recent is Land Art of the 21st Century, sort of a call to think about what public art can do, what art in public space can do to be an active part of the solution to climate change and regenerate landscapes. And that's it.
I think we did that in 14 minutes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I am impressed. 1 minute to go. Wow, fantastic. Again, so many questions, I'm sure, and I started seeing some questions in the chat about these are beautiful, but can we actually implement them? So that's, I'm sure, a discussion that will happen in the breakout rooms. We're going to go to our last but not least panelist, John Moon. The floor is yours, and after